Okay. We have another special walk-on mentality episode. We have Ole Miss alum here, Elliot Markuson. How you doing today?
Good, man. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, we're gonna get into the story, meat and potatoes, everything. But if you can just start off with, telling us where you from, where you grew up, and what sport you played while you were walk-on.
Yeah, I'm from Oxford, Mississippi. I moved there when I was in eighth grade, so that's my home. I went to Lafayette High School, so local high school in Oxford.
Mhm.
I walked on and played football at the University of Mississippi, so Ole Miss. And yeah, man, it was probably the greatest 5 years of my young adult life. That's for sure.
Yes, sir. Love that. Love that. So, growing up, we can just kind of cut to the chase. Your dad was an O-line coach at Ole Miss. So,
Mhm.
it was very with me. I had both my parents go to Cal. So, that was an easy college decision for me, and it was probably an easy college decision for you. Um, but what was it like having coach in the house growing up?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. Being the son of a college football coach is like it's like a military family, right?
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
moved. Thankfully, I only got to move really once
Okay.
in my childhood that I could remember. Where previously before Ole Miss, he coached at the University of Arkansas. So
Okay.
11 years as a Razorback and growing up in Fayetteville and my childhood was there. And, for the longest time, I wanted to be an Arkansas Razorback.
Hmm.
And a lot of my friends that they ended up playing for the Hogs. And
Hmm.
yeah, I thought that Arkansas is a very unique place because there's only one school really in the state
Right.
and everyone is a Razorback fan and they're diehard fans. Um, and so, growing up with my dad and moving to Mississippi when I was in
Mhm.
high school, junior high, and then high school, my dad being a coach in the house, I thought he did a really good job of he let my high school coaches coach me and take care of my athletic career. He was never I don't know what a good colloquial term would be. He was never a sideline parent, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of them, especially
Yes.
in Southern high school football, that no, he was very hands off, very supportive of everything I did, and I remember a couple times, coming home after a game we didn't lose many games in my high school career. I only lost three. We
Hmm.
were a really good team.
Hmm.
We had great coaches, and we won two state championships. And I remember, after what my first ever high school football loss, he called me because he was gone coaching, and he asked if I'm going to not do this justice, but he was like, "What do you think about that?" And
Hmm.
I was just so mad.
Yeah.
I didn't even want to talk to him, and I was like, you know what? And he was good. I mean, he's not like the typical college football parent where we're gonna sit down and cut up film the next morning. He was never like that at all.
That's great. That's wonderful hearing because we've seen through coming up in football, there's a lot of those, and some of
Mhm.
them are not even college football coaches.
Right.
They just hope that their kid is a better version of them, or their kid is going to, right all the wrongs that happen to them. And that's not exactly the healthiest relationship all the time to have with your kid growing up. So, um, the fact that your dad was like, I mean, I imagine that he wanted to say a lot, but he was just like,
Yeah.
let them just learn, let them just enjoy it and things like that. So that's great. But so, you grow up your early years in Arkansas and then in Mississippi,
Hmm.
no pro football teams, the heart of SEC country.
Hmm.
Um, did you entertain any other sports growing up?
It's actually that's a good question. And yeah, going back to the SEC component, that's all
Mhm.
I knew.
Yeah.
My childhood from some of the earliest ages of, being a young kid was on the sidelines of SEC football games. So, 100,000 screaming fans, right? Like that was my Saturday night as a
Yeah.
as a kid. so I didn't really like the NFL. I didn't really care. Like I here and there, but it was like, you're a Razorback fan, you're a Rebel fan. Like
Right.
that's what it is. Like there's no in between. And I got to high school, and I played. You go growing up. You do travel ball and
Hmm.
you baseball and soccer. You do everything. You know, and then I got to high school, and started playing football. And I just remember hearing about, as a freshman, getting the Tri-Sport Athlete Award. And I
Hmm.
was like, I better do some other sports because I really want to get that award. So I
Yeah.
actually ended up running track and field, which
Okay.
I was terrible at. I ran the only thing that they could get a football player to run, and that was the 4x400
Right.
relay. And
Oof.
that was
Oof.
just it was just pain manifested into a sporting event. And I wasn't any good, but went out there and just gave it all and burnt myself out every race. By the second 100, the first
Hmm.
100-meter stretch, I was already spent.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I played soccer, which was fun, and they just
Okay.
again recruited a bunch of football guys to complete defense. But
Yeah.
I got the athlete award, and that was something I was really proud of. But in the end of in the grand scheme of things, I guess the track and field helped a little bit of what I'm doing now, but I
Yeah.
mean, it didn't translate completely.
Got you. Got you. So a little bit of baseball, a little bit of soccer, got the award. And so that was your freshman year that you said you got the award. And then did you play after that?
I'm gonna try to think. No, I think I got the award my sophomore year.
Okay.
Yep.
Sophomore.
hmm
And did
Yeah,
you
my freshman
continue?
year. My freshman year, I just did football.
Okay. Got you.
hmm
Did you continue playing those other two sports after that? Or was it
No,
just like, all
no,
right,
no, no,
well,
no, no,
cool,
no.
got this?
Yeah, I want to say the spring of my junior year, I was like, I'm not playing another sport. I'm just gonna stick with football. I think I want to try to go play college football somewhere. So I kind of, which now obviously, like I tell kids now going to high school, or their parents, like, let the kids do every sport you can. Like, you don't need those gurus online that are like sport specific, training and all that bullshit. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, college coaches don't care about all that. They want to see diversification in athletic talent and development, for sure. And it helps you as an athlete, right, mitigate against injuries and just be more dynamic, I think.
Right, right, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I played a lot of basketball growing up, and I
Mhm.
actually probably played basketball more than I did football for a while. But
Wow.
I I credit my just overall athletic ability to like playing basketball and just doing something different. I really enjoy playing basketball, but football I can train for more. I like training for more. So, but
Right.
if I didn't have basketball, then I wouldn't have been as good of a football player. So I definitely
Mhm.
understand like, just to the parents like try stuff.
Right.
Soccer,
Right.
baseball, basketball, track, just swimming, just try it and it's going to help in the long run, whether they figure out they like it or not. So, that's definitely cool that you were able to have that experience in different sports other than football.
Yeah.
Right. So just rewinding a little bit, you said your dad worked 11 years at Arkansas and then
Mhm.
Ole Miss. So, and you were on the sidelines. Not everybody gets that experience of
Mm.
being in that college environment. You were probably, I mean, by the time you were in that recruiting age, 15, 16, 17, what's a recruiting trip to the University of Arkansas? Like you've been in the locker room before, you've been on the field before, like you've done all that. Did that
Yeah.
make you view these universities different in that recruiting process?
Um, that's a really good question. I've never really thought about it in this kind of in from this frame of mind, and I don't know. I don't think it did.
Mhm.
Maybe it did internally, and I just didn't really know how to recognize that. But I remember going the summer. Gosh, it would have been the summer going into my senior year of high school. I got invited to one of the Arkansas football camp, those summer camps,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
showed up, and it was great. It was weird to be back
Hmm.
because I've been gone for so long, and I wanted to be a Razorback. And I think I went into that camp and I don't know why. I thought it was kind of funny that I'd spent so much time in Mississippi that I felt like I was more blue collar than the kids at this Arkansas camp, and so I
Okay.
showed up with a real kind of headstrong mentality, and I was
Hmm.
like, man, I'm going to mess some people up here,
Yeah.
so I can get noticed and really get on the board.
Hmm.
And it ended up working out in my favor, and by the end of the camp, my coach was like, we want you to come be a Hog, son. And I just remember thinking like, oh man, I did it. And I never thought like, oh, I used to, I grew up here as a young kid. Like I
Hmm.
didn't really have that thought. I just was more of like no man, I'm gonna come here and really work, and I'm gonna show them, kind of this blue collar
Hmm.
mentality that Arkansas had built their football reputation on for the longest time. And it ended up not working out. The coach that kind of was recruiting me to come walk on there, he left and went to Auburn, and
Hmm.
I didn't really have any ties to Auburn, and I didn't
Yeah.
really want to go be a War Eagle Tiger, I guess. So
Yeah.
yeah, that it's funny. It's a good segue, and that's how kind of Ole Miss came into the picture.
Gotcha.
Was after that, Ole Miss actually was kind of my second choice behind Arkansas.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So we'll dive into that just a little bit more, but so throughout football, again, your dad's an O-line coach. What was all the positions that you played in football?
Oh man, from Pop, I remember in Pop Warner, I played guard because
Okay.
I was a bigger kid, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just remember being in the going to work with my dad and all the other coaches he worked with. They were like, "Yeah, Elliot, man, you're the offensive guard your dad always wanted," and then because I was kind of a short, stocky, kind of fat kid, and
Yeah.
then you get to junior high, and then you start to kind of, I got real, awkward and
Hmm.
lengthy, and
Hmm.
I played everything. Defensive end, linebacker, tight end. I did a small stint as a quarterback in eighth grade.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
so yeah. I mean, I played basically everything except defensive back and
Gotcha.
receiver. I
Gotcha.
mean, I guess if you counted the tight end, I don't know, but yeah.
It's a
Other than
hybrid.
that,
Yeah.
basically everything.
Got you.
Long snapper. I was a long snapper in high school too. So yeah.
Hey, long snappers, if I were to do it again, I would say
Hmm.
I probably should have long snapped a little bit more because their lifestyle is what you're trying to live when you're in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty funny. So you you play these multiple positions. Did you feel pressure to be an offensive lineman, or were you just going out there to play football?
Yeah, I think I was just playing football, and it became pretty evident pretty quickly that I wasn't going to be an offensive lineman.
Hmm.
I think I got that a little bit of genetic blessing from my mother's side.
Okay.
A little bit less beefy than my dad.
Yeah.
So I think tight end, fullback, linebacker was the perfect fit for my body. And my dad, he didn't care. He just
Yeah.
wanted me to enjoy the game, right?
Got you.
He didn't go into some parents, right? Like they go into like, my kid's the freaking quarterback, and
Hmm.
he didn't care. He just wanted me to play, enjoy it, and
Hmm.
derive the lessons from the game that we've all kind of picked up on our own. And you know, and his biggest thing with it was no matter what I picked, no matter what I did, that I was going to finish and do it
Hmm.
correctly and
Hmm.
not half-ass it, not just show up and kind of go through the motions. That was probably the main thing that he coached. It wasn't the X's and O's and he
Hmm.
wasn't giving me a freaking grade report on each practice or game. He was like, no, you're going to finish what
Yep.
you start and how you start it. So, yeah, that was kind of the highlight.
That's beautiful. So, you mentioned that you went to a powerhouse. You lost 3 games in high school,
Mhm.
which that's great. That's wonderful, especially in the state of Mississippi. Like, state championships, football's king. That's major. So, like, I imagine every single week there's a college coach there. And, there's a whole lot of pulling people out of the class to talk to the college coach, or they're at the practice talking to the head coach. There was a lot of college attention buzzing around. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I remember oh God, it would have been my junior year. Les Miles,
Wow.
I remember we were playing small school. And my head coach, our philosophy
Mhm.
was we never had an off week. We never had a bye week. We
Wow.
would schedule an out of state opponent just so we could play 16 straight games if we went to the state championship. And my junior year, I remember we were playing a away team, kind of a smaller, a really tough team,
Hmm.
blue collar town about an hour and a half away.
Hmm.
And on the opposite end zone, standing up, leaned up against the goalpost, was Les Miles in the LSU jacket. And I was like, that's hilarious because my dad coaches against him, right? So I was like,
Yeah.
that's funny. And he was there to see our quarterback at the time, Jeremy Liggins. And then as that, progressed, and we had Dan Mullen flew to one of our high school games in this helicopter and landed in our baseball field. And
Wow.
I remember our head baseball coach.
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Right, right. I mean, but that's if you want to talk about a recruiting tool, like that's a statement right there because
Yeah,
whoever he's there for is going to remember that like he flew in for me and to watch
right.
me and things like that. So,
It was just so funny because Lafayette, the high school I went to, Lafayette, it's the county school. Most kids show up wearing camo.
hmm.
It's in Oxford where Ole Miss is, so it's not
Hmm.
real Mississippi State territory. There might have been a few, but you just got a Mississippi State Bulldog helicopter landing at a high
Yeah.
school in Oxford, and Ole Miss's campus is not even 3 miles down the road.
Wow.
It was really funny, and I just thought it was really ironic as a player, and I was like, this is just ridiculous, man. Like,
Right.
but
Right.
that's high school recruiting, and then now it's even worse, not worse, but it's even more ostentatious, I guess is a better term.
Yeah, it's high school recruiting is bizarre. I don't I appreciate the guys that just, pick a hat, sign a letter, but you got kids now jumping out of planes. They got them like making this whole video production. I'm just like, as a player, it's like, do we even know you're gonna be good? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right,
are you gonna pan out? Like, are you coachable? Or you're gonna adjust? Like, are you gonna be healthy? Like, there's so many factors, and their moment is their moment. So I let them have it, but hopefully these new age kids learn that keep the main thing is you're there to play football. So
right.
it's
Well,
a
it's a good like highlighted point between I don't want to generalize here, but the walk on mentality versus the full ride guys, and
yeah.
not all guys. It's not a one size fits all where they're not going to have that work ethic, but generally, I thought that most of the walk-ons that came in and you're like, hey, this is the mission that I'm going to do. This is
Hmm.
what I set out. It ain't about the signing day theatrics or
Hmm.
the under at the time under the
Hmm.
table money and the
Yeah.
handshakes and the dealers' cars from the local dealership. It wasn't all about that. It was about friggin' playing football at Ole Miss,
Hmm.
and living that life. But yeah. But going back to your question about college recruiting and high school, I'll never forget the first day I got mail in high
Hmm.
school, and it was from the University of Alabama.
Oh wow.
And they would just send these. I don't really know if there was like, hey, there's like a master list of how many guys we got game film on, and we're going to send them weekly stuff. But I remember somebody coming into my chemistry class, and they were like, "Yeah, Elliot, you got some mail in the at the time the I think it was the assistant principal was our offensive coordinator,
Oh
and so
wow.
he
Okay.
kept all the football players' mail in his office, and
Yeah.
so he's like, "No, man, like you got mail in there from Alabama," and I was like, "Alabama?" I think it was a yeah, I was a junior. I was a junior, and
Okay.
so I walked in there,
Uh-huh.
and by God, enough, Coach Robbins was like, "Yeah, son, you got some mail here," and pulls out, and it's like this giant mailing package from Alabama envelope, and it has a big A with the
Uh-huh.
elephant on it, and it
Yeah.
was open. Somebody had opened it. And I never, to this day, I never found out who opened it, which one of
Yeah.
my teammates. They saw it. They're like freaking getting like
Yeah.
getting mail from Alabama. It was funny. But anyway, it was that's a memory I'll always I'll always have.
That's funny. Yeah, those letters are like Those are confidence boosters. It's like I'm on somebody's map.
Mhm.
Because pretty a lot of, I mean, if you play, you'll get a letter at some point.
Right, right.
But for us, if it makes it feel so special and
Yeah, it was your first one ever, and you're like, "God dang, it's" I thought it would be from, like, you know, I don't know, like, Mississippi College or something, but it was from Alabama, and my teammate had opened it.
right, right.
But,
That's
no,
funny.
it's huge, it's huge, and I always wonder, like you said, like, how do they I don't even understand what list they're pulling from. Like, what game stats are you equivalating? My playing time and
Yeah.
success on the field versus mailing me this envelope. I don't know. It's just funny.
Right, right. That's a mystery to this day. But so just getting back into your high school journey. So, you've been around college a lot. Like you've been around, that world, pretty much the ins and outs. You learned a lot from your dad. Um, your high school was a powerhouse. But once it came to you and who was looking after you and who was coming to the games to see you, like how was that, versus, some of the other teammates?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, I think my dad only got to come to like a handful of my high school games, and
Hmm.
it's something that I grew up understanding.
Hmm.
This was just the way. It was no different than my dad being gone all
Hmm.
spring for spring recruiting, and it was just the way our family did business, and it was a
Hmm.
normal for me. And so, I didn't really think twice about it until my senior year when he was able to be there for my senior night. I think
Yeah.
was really big for me, and my dad left Ole Miss my junior year, and he
Hmm.
went to Wisconsin, and so really my senior season, it was my mom and I. This is like a whole story that not a lot of people know about, but my dad wanted to move me and my mom to Wisconsin, to Madison,
Wow.
for me to play my senior football season at a school I've never been to. No, I didn't know anybody up there. And it was a big fight between my dad, myself, my mom, and
Hmm.
my high school coaches were like, "You can't leave, man. Like, you can
Yeah.
come live with us for the fall at least." And
Yeah.
I was seriously considering it. I was
Hmm.
like, "Dad, I'm not going to Wisconsin. I just won another state championship. We're ranked. I'm ranked in the state. I can't just get up and leave." And his argument was like, I want you close, and your mother, and
Hmm.
if you're going to be good here, you'll be good there, and just same
Hmm.
work ethic, and I understand that,
Yeah.
but for me, the biggest turning point was he had talked and preached so much about finishing, and it wasn't just him. It
Hmm.
was the head coach that he worked for and his staff,
Hmm.
guys that I had been around since I was 4, 5, 6. The
Hmm.
earliest memories that I have sitting in these team meetings
Hmm.
with these coaches talking to these college athletes, talking about
Hmm.
finishing and how you carry yourself and doing what's right. And, fast forward 10, 12, 13 years later, now going into my senior year of high school, and my
Yeah.
dad wants to move me. And I remember having this conversation with him. I was like, "Dad, what about finishing what you
Hmm.
started?"
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
for him, he was like, "You're right. And if this is what you want to do, then, this is the way we'll do it." And so, and I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for the community in Oxford to this day who, you know, were gonna take me in as their own, and
Yeah.
let me stay without my family there. But it ended up working out. My sister I have an older sister. She was
Okay.
already in college.
Hmm.
Um, so it was just me and my mom my senior year, and she ran the concession stand on the home side. So
Okay.
my mom didn't really get to watch me play, but she was there, and
Yeah.
she would come in the locker room after the game with Chick-fil-A sandwiches, and all my teammates loved her because she came
Love it.
in as Elliot's mom with Chick-fil-A. But yeah, it was. You know what, man? Like, I think back on it, yeah, it would have been great to have him there for every game, but
Hmm.
he made sure he came to what he could, and for me,
Yes.
that's enough, man. Like,
Absolutely.
especially as we get older and we start chasing our passions in life, and it's like it's not like we're not supportive and we're not trying to be present, but it's like it makes those times that he was there even more special for me. And there was one time he was there and I caught, like, I missed I dropped a touchdown
Oh
pass, and
no.
I remember I was like, all right, man, like uh anyway, that's
Yeah.
yeah. But to sum it all up, high school was super special.
Hmm.
I'm so grateful for where I went, and moving sucks when you're in eighth grade and you're a young kid trying to figure it out. And
Yeah.
and I think one thing that really set me apart was, and my dad kind of encouraged this, that I was going to be the toughest guy on our team. And I remember my head coach telling my dad, and my dad never got involved, right? Like he let our coaches coach me, and
Hmm.
our head coach had, I don't know, saw him somewhere or said something, but I was in 10th grade, I think, or junior. I don't remember exactly what year, but my head coach told my dad, he said, I think Markuson is the toughest son of a bitch on our team.
Oh,
And my
I'm
dad told
good.
me that at home, and I'll never forget that. And I kind of wore that as a badge of honor. And I was like, I
Yeah.
might not be the most athletic and
Yeah.
I might not be the most gifted, but by
Mhm.
God, I'm gonna go all four quarters and I'm gonna make somebody suffer if they're
Yes.
gonna try to hit me. And it's funny because ironically enough, that same kind of mentality transitioned with me to being a walk on. And
Mhm.
even today to competing for Team USA in its own kind of capacity. So yeah, my high school years were I was really blessed. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I just wanted to just reiterate how much, from my point of view, how much that was a pivotal moment for you, not moving to, was it Madison, Wisconsin?
Yeah. Yep.
Madison, Wisconsin, and going, this is the life lesson that your dad was teaching you for so long, and then this was well, it sounded like your first opportunity to really apply it and really live by it, which
Yep.
is finishing what you started. And that we can hear it, but until we're in a situation where, okay, I have to live it and apply it, that really like stamps it down. So that had to be a super pivotal moment for you.
Yep.
um but you said earlier that Arkansas was your first option and
Yep.
Ole Miss was your second option. So how did Ole Miss come about?
I think once the Arkansas bit didn't come through or the coach had left, and I was like, all right, I don't a guy that wants me there, he's not there anymore. I don't really know if this is the right place, even though I still want to be a Razorback.
Mhm.
My second thought went straight to Ole Miss
Yeah.
because everything that happened, and my dad had been let go at Ole Miss. His whole staff was so there
Mhm.
was a little resentment at first of like, do I really want to go play for the school that had just fired my dad and his staff? Like,
Mhm.
it's college football, right? Like that's just the way, and now more so than back then. But um, and so there was one guy still on staff, Derek Nix. He was a running back coach. And I remember reaching it. My dad was like, if you want to go to Ole Miss, reach out to Coach Nix, send him your
Mhm.
game tape and just see what he says. So I sent it to him and everything. And he got, I'll never forget this. I was training at a private gym in Oxford and I was carrying a sandbag, 100-pound sandbag. And I was
Mhm.
carrying it like this. And I go back and my phone was ringing. It was Coach Nix. He called me and he's like, yeah, man, we got a walk on spot for you. We want you to come be a part of the team. And
Wow.
and at that point, I was committed. There was going to be nothing else. And I'd taken some official visits at some smaller schools, some junior colleges,
Mhm.
but for me, it was almost, and I don't want to say poetic, but
Mhm.
it was almost like I'm gonna go to Ole Miss,
Mhm.
chip on my shoulder. I'm
Mhm.
gonna earn the shit that I think I deserve, and I'm gonna be the hardest worker in the room, and I'm gonna represent, myself and my dad as a player. And that was kind of my thought going into it
Yeah.
as an 18-year-old, which seems kind of, you're like, man, why don't you just go enjoy the game? And I think for me, it was bigger than that at the
Yeah.
very beginning anyway. And then, but
Mhm.
yeah, and that goes on to it, my college career and, the
Mhm.
friendships and the relationships I had. And yeah,
Mhm.
I learned a lot, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not everybody has. It was bigger than that. It sounds like it was bigger than that for you, is because not everybody has a dad who worked there, and you have been around college football more than most of the guys that you were in the locker room with. Like
Right.
you were seeing the process, what the coaches have to go through. You're seeing like on the field, in the locker room, like you have so much more context, so the how big it is, how big of a situation it is, and then of course you're in the SEC country and football is king, and
Mhm.
that too, and you're
Right.
from there, and you're the high school you went to. I can't say everybody, but most people wanted to go to Ole Miss. I know that.
Yeah.
Like that's just how it works.
Yeah.
So like yeah, you get that opportunity and you were going for a tight end, correct?
Yeah. Yep. At
Okay.
that time, I was like the what do they call it? Like the hybrid, like
Yes.
the H back.
H-back. Yep.
Yep.
And shout out tight ends, man. Um,
The
but
unsung heroes of the offense.
man, I try to explain to people that like we have to be the smartest behind the quarterback
Hmm.
on the team. And, we have to be able to communicate with the linemen. We have to be able to communicate with the receivers. If you're not this really starting tight end, you got to play special teams. You got to be pretty much the Swiss Army knife of football. You got to do a little bit of everything. Um, and then we get, paid marginally and all like that. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
you gotta be the utility knife, that's for sure. And then and people hold you accountable too. I
yes.
feel like the tight end was always the first person to get blamed. It was never the
Yeah,
quarterback. It was like the tight end to know he didn't get the call or
right,
he didn't set the protection up. And you're like, all
right,
right, man, all right, like
right, right. Yeah. But I mean, definitely you take pride, you just playing tight end, you take pride in the position because there's a lot of, routes one day, blocking the next day,
mhm,
kind of just general conditioning the next day. So like you have to work everything. It's not like a receiver where you just run. It's not like we're a
mhm.
linebacker, you just do one thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so you're going as tight end. Okay, you're on this campus, Ole Miss. I mean, you getting your first Ole Miss gear probably wasn't really like a big deal to you because you were, around them hoodies and sweatshirts and t-shirts and everything like that. But did officially being on campus like get to you?
Um, well, let me backtrack a little bit. So
Mhm.
even back in my high school career, playing tight end, I was the first tight end, and I want to say I thought I looked this up one time.
Okay.
It was over 30 years that they actually threw a pass to. So I broke the high school tight end single reception record in one
Really?
game for a pass for like 10 yards. And
Really?
and so I was the first one. So in practice, our offensive line coach, he would be like, we're doing board drills with the D line and the linebackers. And then
Mhm.
the offensive coordinator would be like, no, 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 no. Elliot actually can catch a pass. So he's going to go to 7-on-7 pass scale. And I
Okay.
just remember being the first one, like in a long time ever to be that in that position. And I was like, yeah, I kind of do what I want. But
Yeah.
anyway, so going to Ole Miss, it's interesting because I showed up for the second summer session.
Okay.
So there's two. There's like the June. There's your
Mhm.
signing class.
Yeah.
The guys immediately show up to campus and start taking class in
Hmm.
June, and then I came in July. So
Hmm.
that June month, I was still in Oxford, and my dad got me a job working construction
Okay.
as a lesson for 4 weeks. So I was training full time with my personal trainer
Yeah.
in the afternoon. In the mornings, I would go lay concrete for 5 hours
Wow.
and in Mississippi in the summer, right? And
In
so my
July.
dad
Yeah.
used that as a lesson, and the lesson was really clear, really, really, really clear at the beginning. Get your degree, don't fuck around, or you're going to
Hmm.
be laying concrete for the rest of your life. And I was like, at the end of that, I would call it an internship. I was like, I don't ever want to do this again. And he goes,
Uh-huh.
you learned it. Okay, good. Like then this was used, and it's funny now because looking back on it, my whole high school career, I worked hard. I really pushed myself. I kind of prided myself on it. That 3.5 weeks of doing full time construction, I
Yeah.
hated my life, and
Yeah.
I really learned of how to apply the work ethic from football in a non-football um, environment,
Hmm.
non-sports environment. And that was the first time I'd ever done it. And so it taught me a lot. And then I show up in July for off-season workouts at Ole
Hmm.
Miss, and I remember getting my first set of shoes, a pair of shorts, and a
Hmm.
shirt to work out in because you have to
Hmm.
wear the gear.
Yeah.
You can't just show up wearing your own stuff. And at that time, the locker room was under construction, so they were redoing it. So our makeshift locker room was a
Hmm.
bunch of chairs set up in a hallway with a door. And prior, like I had been in the facility a
Yeah.
little little more than just a year ago.
Right.
And all the guys that were there playing, most of them, except for my signing class and the year before us, had
Hmm.
all played for my dad.
Wow.
So they'd all known me since I was like in high school. So
Right.
I show
Right.
up and I'll never forget this. The senior kicker and the punter, they're like, holy shit, man, you're our teammate now. And it was just like a really
Yeah.
funny connection going from just, the coach's kid, hanging out in the facilities to like, no, 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 like you're our teammate now. And it was kind of surreal. I didn't have a chance to really kind of, oh wow, this is Ole Miss. Like, let me take it in. It was like immediately
Yeah.
I got on campus and I felt like I got to prove myself
Right.
quickly. And that's what I set out to do, tried to do. And I remember that first July, man,
Hmm.
that was some of the hardest training
Yeah.
I think. And my message to guys right now,
Hmm.
go as you transition from high school to college football, and if this is what
Hmm.
you want to do not take time off in
Hmm.
between that transition. You better train your ass off because when you show up to campus, they're gonna wear you out, man, and they're gonna try to find the weakness that you have, and they're gonna try to exploit it 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a that even going to, in my experience, going to like the next level in every team except, the Patriots were pretty close. There's nothing like a college lifting program. Like it is brutal. It is, it's designed to separate people and is
Mhm.
designed to say like who's really about this and who's not, because that's what there's 120, 30 guys on the football team,
Right.
and it's like a boot camp. So that first year everybody remembers vividly their first year of conditioning, especially
Oh.
out there in Oxford. Like that had to be just
I remember we were doing at that point we would do the 2-a-days and we would
Mhm.
actually do our conditioning in the afternoon at 3 o'clock
Uh,
in the stadium, and it was my first time ever running those 120s or the
oof.
110s
Hmm.
timed by
Hmm.
position group. And then if someone didn't make it past the line within the time, it was a no rep and you would rerun it.
Yeah.
And I swear to you, I think the first time we ever ran those, we were supposed to do, I think, 15.
Hmm.
I think we ran 35.
Yeah.
And I remember one of the guys leaning over, throwing up, and we had to run an extra rep because he was throwing up. And then one of the seniors came and fought that guy because he kept leaning over.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, dude, like dude, we're not in Kansas anymore, kind of
Right.
feeling.
Right. Yeah. You gotta watch your back because you don't want to be that guy. You don't
You don't
want
want to be that guy.
you don't want to be
Never.
that guy. If you played football long enough, which we both have, you've seen fights internally,
Oh
and
yeah.
you've seen like just you people are like, man, like I don't want to be the one who's eating late, so I'm ending up throwing up or letting my team down and things like that. So you don't want to be that guy, but sometimes it just happens, and there's no such thing as a perfect workout. There's going to be at least one redo by somebody because the numbers are just too big. I mean, the odds are not in your favor ever.
We would take bets before,
Yeah.
you're in the locker room getting the stuff on. You're like, man, how many repeats we got today? And I would be, every guys would be betting. You're like, I bet you lunch that
Yeah.
we'll do 5. And you're like,
Yeah.
5? I'm gonna say 10, man. I don't know. And then
Yeah.
but it's funny because as you get older and
Hmm.
you're in the system long enough, your body. It's funny how your body adjusts to it,
Yes. Hmm.
and then it starts to become like a game. And I remember my senior year, the summer going into my senior year at Ole Miss. I would just have fun. I would just be laughing. I would run next to the quarterbacks
Hmm.
during conditioning, and I would just be singing and laughing and joking. And
Yeah.
yeah, because it all goes back to enjoying the process, right? When you're
Hmm.
young and you're first into it, you're like, you're survival mode. You're trying to prove yourself. But then you get older and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna have fun with this, man. Because if I
Right.
ain't having fun, then it ain't worth being here. That's for
Right.
sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, your first training camp was rough. It was brutal.
Mm.
You're trying to adjust to it. Um, Tell us just how just like the first year or two went as you're getting acclimated to like this, you went to a powerhouse, so you were in the
Mm,
best situation, but this is still SEC football at the highest level.
yeah.
How was it getting acclimated to being a tight end at Ole Miss for an SEC team?
Man, I think the first thing I remember was coming to fall camp my freshman year,
Hmm.
and that first practice that I was in, I was like, "This is the fastest shit I've ever seen in my life."
Hmm.
It was the speed was so fast of practice of those they're that 25, 30 period practice,
Yeah.
even the transition in between periods
Yeah.
from endo to pursuit to
Hmm.
scale to one-on-ones, and
Hmm.
guys are sprinting, and I was like, man, I better freaking find another gear for this motor,
Yeah.
or I'm not gonna they're gonna run me off of here because I'm not gonna last.
Yeah.
But that was the main thing I remember was the speed. And then of course, like I was on every scout team, right? And I
Hmm.
like enjoyed it. I wore it with like a badge of honor because it was a
Hmm.
chance for me to hit somebody and then
Yeah.
get hit a lot, and just see if and then I guess you kind of develop a thick skin for it, and then you
Hmm.
start to I don't know, kind of enjoy it, not enjoy it, but you kind of get used to it, and then you kind of you just build on experience, right?
Hmm.
Get used to the speed, get used to the physicality, get
Hmm.
stronger, and then just kind of keep stacking. And when you look up, you're like, hey, like I'm doing okay at practice. I'm holding my own, and I'm beating guys in board drills and one on ones, and it's yeah, you know, uh, that was kind of my experience those first 2 years, and you know, I remember the first game I got to play in.
Yeah.
It had to have been my redshirt freshman year or the sophomore, yeah, redshirt freshman year, not
Mhm.
true freshman, yeah, redshirt
Yeah,
freshman
redshirt
year.
freshman. Hmm.
I was before I'd moved to linebacker. I was still playing that tight end, and at this point, our team is kind of switching what they want in a tight end. We started moving more towards that Evan Ingram, receiver
Yeah.
based tight end, getting
Hmm.
away from the bigger, kind of fullback style.
Hmm.
But I got to play against Presbyterian. That was my first ever game to play in, and we were just running an inside zone, and the H back was in the back, right between the guard and the tackle, and your only job is
Hmm.
to ISO the defensive end.
Yeah.
And I pancaked this guy on national television, and that was my first ever college football play. And I remember going back to my friend's house after the game and pulled it up. I pulled up the recording
Immediately.
on
Yeah.
TV. I recorded it. And I
Yeah.
was like, yes, man. Yeah, because it's you put in so much work and so much betting on yourself and perseverance and you everything. And then this was the fruit of that labor. It
Yeah.
was nobody will know. It will never be on a stat sheet. It will never be.
Hmm.
But for me, as a young man trying to find his way, that was that was the fruit of the labor. Like that was it. That was the point. That was
Yeah.
every bit of it. Be a strong, tough nosed son bitch on this
Hmm.
football team and earn it. And for me, that was so crucial. I didn't want a dealership car. It would have been nice. I
Yeah.
didn't want all the things, but like this is what it was about. And so that was kind of the highlight of those first, couple 3 years. Getting the playing time that I did get on special teams or kind of at the end of games. Like it was about freaking just I don't know, man, just being the toughest dude out there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And and just having fun. And my friends that the other walk-ons that I was, blessed to be with, they're some of my friends now for life.
Hmm.
We were really fortunate because there was about six of us that we were kind of the core walk-on guys. They called us the other guys.
Yes.
And we were
Yeah.
on all the special teams and we contributed and we worked hard. We weren't on lists. We
Hmm.
didn't we weren't distractions, right? And they would have you remember those walk-ons that would come in kind of like in between semesters, like they would have these open tryouts, and
Yeah.
my group
Mhm.
of friends and I, we'd take bets how long somebody would last. I was like, I give that guy 2 weeks, man.
Right.
I give that guy 1 week through spring football, and he's out of
Right.
here. And
Yeah.
normally that was the case.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not for everybody. But just going back to your point of you're in practice, there's wins in practice because that's film too.
Hmm.
And you're just like, cool. But having it, you're saying like, that's not fully real,
Yep.
but having it applied to the game, that's very real. That's actually real. And I feel like all walk-ons have thousands of hours of film in their phone of
Yeah.
plays no one has ever seen. And
Yep.
I definitely do. I have plays high school, college, no one has ever seen, but it's like a personal look. We have a personal library naturally of just like if you show some average person that it's like, okay, like yeah, you won that route or you pancake, that's cool, but like what's so amazing about this? But it's like, no, it's the journey leading up to this. It's the
Right.
feeling of like, no, I really worked on this for hours after practice, and it finally was able to show itself in that rare opportunity that I got. So I
Right.
mean, it's special. I played 3 snaps my retro freshman year. So like it was that feeling is
Yeah.
great when you finally get that opportunity. You finally see it like, okay, it's not for nothing.
Right.
And it's even intoxicating too, of just like, ooh,
It
this is
is.
good. Like this is, let me try to figure out how I can do this again. Getting back to your story, so that transition to linebacker, how did you feel about that after playing tight end? Like, was that tough?
I kind of asked for it. I wanted it. I wanted
Mm,
to. I knew I was like, I'm not going to get any starting time as a tight end here.
hmm
I'm not built for it. I'm not rangy. I'm not fast enough to be that
hmm
what they want. But what I could do is I could go to linebacker, which I have some experience playing linebacker.
hmm
I'll be at the bottom of the depth chart of the linebacker room. That's cool. But the linebacker room was closer to the special teams coordinator's room.
mm,
And I was
hmm
like, he spends more time with the defensive guys in his special
hmm
teams meeting than the offensive guys. So I got a better shot of getting on the field going this way than just
Wow.
staying here and doing practice reps at tight end. Right. And so that's what I did. And
Mhm.
every day I would go in the special team coordinator's office and I would watch film with him. And I'd
hmm
be like, well, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And then being in the linebacker room, just made me more comprehensive to kind of the scheme of what everything was going on. And maybe I always thought this. I always thought that they picked more guys on special team out of the defensive side of the facility than the
Yes,
offensive side,
100%.
especially when it came to covering kicks or being on kickoff return.
hmm
Like it was, you kind of had to be a little like, some guys would be like, man, I can't believe I got to do this. And I was like, no, no, no. Like, I get to do this. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
um, so that was the whole reason for the transition. And then, I got to play some snaps at linebacker in some games, and
Mhm.
that was fun. I loved it. I definitely like linebacker a lot more than tight end. That's for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah.
I just like the kind of the flow of the game and being able to kind of move around,
Yeah.
get people lined up how I thought, or make the checks and the calls on the field. I just kind of enjoyed that. And probably because, I don't know, maybe a higher football acumen, but I just spent a lot of time in the film room, man. And
hmm
I think, and this is for walk-ons now. Like, if you really want to set yourself apart going into college football and you're going to be a walk-on, you better sleep in the film room.
Yes.
Eat, sleep, breathe it. Anytime you got free time in between classes, don't skip your classes or your tutoring or whatever. But man, be in the film room, be present. Just even if your position coach is in there just doing cut-ups with their GAs, doing practice plan, just sit in there with them and just listen to them. That'll go, man, I can't tell you how far that will go for your football career. It just shows the coaches that you're there. They can trust you. That you're reliable because they can make a call on the field and you've heard it a
hmm
million times and you've seen it, right?
hmm
And it's the same lesson applicable to the rest of life, right? Just show up, just be
Yes.
present, just show up day in, day out. You don't know what the fruit of the labor will be at the end of the day, but it's better to show up than not to show up.
Absolutely. I just want to highlight how important of a decision, because you have to be very humble to make that decision of saying, like, you gotta view it what it is. Just like, they're I'm not good enough to exactly play tight end. And that's a tough conversation that you have to have with yourself.
Right.
But at the same time, you're saying like, but I can do that. And if I do that, then, I might form a better relationship with the special teams coordinator. Um,
Hmm.
and let me go out of my way to try to see how I can just stick my neck out there and let him know, let my intentions know. It's like your goal is to get on the field.
Right.
However you got on the field.
Hmm.
And that is an important trait to have because not everybody can make that decision and be able to knock on that special team coordinator's door and present yourself and present
Right.
your plan because you have to back that up. You have
Right.
to. Yes, you can be in meetings, and that's super important. And watch extra film. That's super important. That's essential. If you're a walk on any sport, you got to watch film. You got to put in that extra work. That is just the standard of what you have to
Hmm.
do if you want to touch the field or court or whatever.
Yep.
Um, so I just wanted to highlight how important that was and just that mindset of like I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get on the field to contribute. So definitely kudos to your decision in making that transition. But I just want to just move on just a little bit. So your playing career ends at Ole Miss, and
Mm.
you went to China, correct?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
To teach English and football. So how did that
Yeah.
transition happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and I think it starts with my senior year playing ball. Um, I thought we finished in, that fifth year, senior year. I took one class in the fall. It was
Hmm.
online entrepreneurship. I'll never forget it. I didn't do a thing. I
Hmm.
watched film. I was a full time football player my senior year, and I thought that was really cool. And I remember on Tuesdays, Tuesday's the full practice day, right? It's like the
Hmm.
big, and we would have guest speakers come in, and we had a guy come in from the NFLPA,
Hmm.
which I'm sure you guys did as well.
Hmm.
And he gave us that talk of, hey, listen, fellas, there's probably only two of you in this room that will make it to the league, straight up.
Hmm.
And I remember sitting there and I said, you know what? He's right.
Yeah.
And I'm a very pragmatic person, I feel like.
Hmm.
I like to do hard things and challenge myself, but I also know like, hey, this, I don't know if this is going to be for me. And I kind of knew that the league wasn't going to be for me.
Hmm.
And I didn't want, I wanted to end my college note on a high note.
Yes.
And I didn't want to have to be like, all right, I'm going to go to pro day and do all these things. Sometimes I think I should have done it, but I didn't. I just chose, hey, I'm going to move on with my life. And
Hmm.
at that point, I thought I was either going to be one of two things: a college football coach like my dad,
Hmm.
or the athletic director at Ole Miss wanted me to come work in the foundation and kind of start that track
Okay.
into the athletic department essentially. And I kind of cultivated that as my senior season was going through, and I would talk to him during pregame
Hmm.
some games, um, and then I don't know what it was, man. I think once football ended that spring of 2018, I was sitting in my apartment and I was watching a lot of YouTube, and I thought, man, my whole life to this point has been college football. It's
Hmm.
literally raised me. I don't know anything else.
Hmm.
And I said, I like doing hard things and I like challenging myself. I think I want to see the world a little
Yeah.
bit.
Wow.
And I wasn't going to join the military. I didn't want to, I didn't really have a goal and aspiration to do that. I respect people that do it. My whole family's in the military, but I was only about 70% in with doing military stuff. And if I'm going to do that, you better be 100%.
100%.
Just like walking on, right? Like you better be 100% convicted. You better have a high level of conviction if you're
Hmm.
going to do something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I was like, I want to travel the world, and did some researching, talked to some people, and they're like, man, the easiest way is to go teach English overseas. And so I did some interviews and got
Hmm.
hired by a company. And it was between, the funny story, and not a lot of people know, is it was between China and South Korea. And the only difference was I picked China because they let us pick our own apartment. And
The
I didn't
simple
want to
thing.
live. I didn't go to South Korea because I didn't want to live in a dorm.
Yeah.
So that
That
was the only reason. And it ended up working out in the way it needed to. And
Mhm,
so I moved to China. One of my friends from high school went with me. And
mhm,
I would tell you this, playing college football taught me how to be a young man,
mhm,
right? How to handle adversity, what it looks like to work hard for something, how to represent something bigger than yourself. China, moving to China for 1 year, I mean, it challenged me more in every aspect that wasn't football related
yeah,
that I needed to grow. Right, just being away from home, from your support base, learning how to figure everything out on the fly, on the ground, and
mhm,
yeah, that was kind of my year. I was there for 14, 15 months. Ended up coaching American football while I was there, which is a whole other story,
yeah,
but yeah, China was a very formative time in my life of
mhm,
like, hey, you're on your own now, man. Now this life exists outside of football. You go make of it as you want, right? Like now it's all on you. Like you don't have the support, you don't have all this, and I'm sure you know this, but I was really fortunate to do that because a lot of my teammates that finished playing college football, they had this void, this
mhm,
identity crisis, right?
mhm,
They didn't know who they were or what they were going to be or what they were going to do.
yep,
It was just taken away from them. Now they just put them in a corporate job and
yep,
they were like, all right, figure it out.
right.
For me, I was living overseas, living an adventure every day, and I was able to kind of cope with that identity being stripped away
Mhm,
in a kind of healthy way because I was still being challenged, but
yeah.
just in different components of my life. And to this day, I kind of tell jokingly, I tell people, if you're going through a transition, man, just move to China for a year and you'll have some form of clarity, whether you hate it or love it, or
Yeah.
you'll come back different. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny you said that. I mean, you're right. You've been in Arkansas or Mississippi, and then China is just completely different. Not
It was
even
wild.
anywhere close to the same, and like just the South, like Southern way, Southern values growing up, like just
Mm,
completely different. But it was a major decision that you made, and I 100% agree with you with the void of like a lot of football players identify themselves as football players.
right.
You get praised that way, your family interacts with you in that way, your
Right.
friends interact with you in that way, you're the football player, and then having that be done, it's almost like people lose their interest in you,
Correct.
and your relationships, all of pretty much most to all of your relationships instantly change, and then so a lot of football players do have that identity crisis of like, well, who am I outside of, putting on the helmet? So I
Right.
100% I hear you experiencing that definitely. But, to your point, when you do something, when you stick your neck out there and do something that's a little bit uncomfortable or a lot of bit uncomfortable, moving to China, um, what can you tell people about what's people are afraid to do uncomfortable things?
Mm,
What
mm.
can you tell people that's on the other side of doing something uncomfortable?
Man, it's like the best metaphor that probably the most standard person can perceive this as is taking an ice bath sucks, man. It just sucks. But when
Mhm,
you're done, you
mhm,
feel like a brand new man, a brand new woman. Your legs feel good. And scientifically, it's proven now that ice baths just have so much cognitive neurological benefits.
mhm.
I read a book. I wish I could remember the title of this book. I actually think it's Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.
Yep, Ryan Holiday. Yep.
And he talks about how doing hard things has that same stimulus on your mind,
Hmm.
what you do, how you perceive your relationships. It sucks, man. It's scary. You got people telling you you're crazy. My own mother told me I was crazy.
Hmm.
But when I came home a different man. I came home, and not that it was everything, because there were really hard times, but I looked at things a lot differently. And it gave me confidence, especially as a young man, to say,
Hmm.
man, there's a world out there that all it takes is a little bit of attitude and effort,
Hmm.
and the two things that I can control, and I
Hmm.
can make a lot of cool stuff happen, and I can impact a lot of people. And that's all of that's on the other side of fear. And it's
Mhm.
just a muscle. You just got to train it. Like you bench press and squat, and you just every day, if you get comfortable, if you find that you can start getting comfortable by being uncomfortable,
Mm.
you will start to grow 10x.
Yeah.
And you don't even know how you're growing, but you just know you're moving in that direction. The cost of staying stagnant and staying complacent in your own thoughts and your mindset and your fears is far more detrimental to you and your growth
Mhm.
than it is than saying like, "Hey, man, I'm going to put my neck out there and I'm going to go try something."
Mhm.
Right? You might fail, like probably over 50% chance you're going to fail, and that's okay because at least you're trying, at least you're working that muscle out instead of saying like, "Hey, man, that ain't for me." Like that, I'm too scared, I'm too afraid. Like, what if my friends think this way about me or my family? Man,
Mhm.
you can't live like that. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. Yeah, it's tough. It is tough every day to make a transition. But the people who've been on the other side of it, talking to the people who are afraid of it, we're just like, do it. Like
Do it.
it's a crazy feeling. It's an uncomfortable feeling. You're standing on ground that is shaky, but like there's a lot of solid ground on the other side, and you have to
Right.
take that leap to get over there. But speaking of transition. So 2018, you said you did that for 15 months, correct?
Yep. Yep. I came back in 2019, right at, I think, right in the fall is when I came back.
Okay. And now the $1 million question. How are you a US bobsledder? Like,
Yeah,
give
man,
me that story.
this is the biggest. And I kind of preface this question by saying, like I'm kind of the guy in my friend group that they're like, man, what's he gonna do next, man? Like,
Hmm.
and I kind of like that. And
Yeah.
so, I get home from China, COVID is kind of kicking off, and I missed all of that over there. And I remember sitting at my parents' house and outside of Nashville as I kind of think about what's next. Right.
Hmm.
Originally, I
Yeah.
was just going to go back and coach more football
Hmm.
because I was like, the adventure isn't over yet. I needed to come home and see my family. I hadn't seen them in
Yes.
15 months.
Wow.
Um, and so a coach that I had known, his name is Andrew Stewart from Ole Miss. He didn't work with the football team, but he was affiliated with athletics. He reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, I don't know what you're doing athletically, but Team USA winter sport recruits from a lot of other talent pools. They call it talent transfer. And at that time, this coach was working with the men's speed skating team, so Apollo
Hmm.
Ono and all those guys.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh man, that's crazy. I never thought about that. Like, I didn't grow up in the winter, like I'm from Mississippi, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and so long story short, at the time, NBC used to have a TV show called The Next Olympic Hopeful where guys
Yes.
show up, they try out, and then like if there's a Team USA team that likes you, it's like a combine, then they'll pull you and put you through recruiting, and it's all on NBC.
Hmm.
So I applied for the show and I got accepted. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh man, I'm really going to do this. When this goes back to putting your neck out there, right? Like
Hmm.
putting yourself into a spot where you're going to be uncomfortable. Because at that point, I was like, I don't know anything about bobsledding. I don't know anything about winter sport. I haven't really properly trained in over a year for high performance. I'd stayed in shape. I was in good shape, but
Hmm.
not like power output, capacity, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wouldn't been doing it.
Yeah.
Um, so fast forward, COVID cancels the show, and I remember getting a letter in the mail with a water bottle, a black water bottle, and just said Team USA on it. And this letter said,
Hmm.
"Hey, we're canceling the show. Thanks for your interest. Thanks for supporting Team USA. Blah blah blah. Good luck with life." Essentially.
Yeah.
And I remember reading that letter. I'm sitting at my parents' house. I was working some kind of shitty 9 to 5 job in Nashville, and I was like, pardon my language, but I was like, "Fuck that, man!"
Mm.
Like I want to do this. And, I remember, the GOAT, Herschel Walker, like
Hmm.
he was a bobsledder. And I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. I'm not an All American and all that, but I guarantee I can work just as hard as Herschel Walker worked.
Hmm.
And I remember reaching out to the bobsled development coach at the time. And he goes, yeah, man, I remember you. Here's what you do a virtual combine for me. So have your roommates, whatever, film some stuff, you doing some activities. And then if we like you, I did some interviews too, and they're like, if we like you, we'll bring you up to rookie camp. And I was like, great. And he goes, well, you'll know, this was important. He goes, you'll know something in 2 weeks.
Mm.
And so I moved into a house with my friends in Nashville. And so I took them to a local high school. I
Mm-hmm.
ran a 40, did a broad jump, did like a bunch of just stuff just to see athleticism. And I sent it to them, was on a couple interviews, like calls with the team.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks, 2.5 weeks go by. I didn't hear anything from them. I'm like, well, guess I sucked. All right, time to figure out what's next in life, And then a Wednesday morning, I'm getting ready to go to work, and I'm sitting on my couch, and I get a phone call. He calls me, and he goes, "Hey, man, it's Coach Dion. Have you not been getting my emails, man? I've sent you like 10 emails, and you haven't responded." And I was
Really?
like, "No, sir, I haven't gotten any emails." And he goes, "Dude, come to find out, the operations girl had gotten my email address wrong." And so they had been sending me paperwork to fill out because I'd been invited to my rookie camp. So I got moved up. And he goes, "Man, you got to drive to Lake Placid like this Friday for 3.5 weeks for your rookie camp." Because this is in the middle of COVID. So you still had to
Yeah.
quarantine, do all that.
Right.
So I packed up my Jeep, never been to upstate New York, didn't know anything about bobsled, and
Mm-hmm.
just drove my happy ass up to New York. and it's been downhill since, right?
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively, like it's been a ride. And that's how I met my girlfriend now, Emily, who's a former walk-on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, this sport has challenged me, changed me, but at the same time, I've applied lessons from being a walk-on in college football to the
Mm-hmm.
same mindset. It's a blue collar sport, grit,
Mm-hmm.
determination. We compete when it's negative 10 degrees outside. So it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing I'm thankful for. And this ride with bobsled is coming to an end. This will probably be my last season competing. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's been a journey. And I can't I look back and I tell myself this, like, if you were to tell a 20-year-old Elliot Markuson, trying to find his playing time in the cut up
Mm-hmm.
at Ole Miss, hey man, you're going to move to China. You're going to live there for a year. You're
Yeah.
going to learn Mandarin. You're going to coach some football while you're there. You're going to see
Mm-hmm.
the Great Wall of China. Then you're going to come home and you're going to do bobsled, that sport that Herschel Walker did. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
freezing cold, and it's going to be one of the most challenging things you've ever done in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to have hip surgery. I would have slapped you in the face. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Like what?
doing all that. And
Yeah.
it's just, I think it's Tom Brady he had that documentary that came out about a man in the arena.
Mm-hmm.
And he has this quote in there where he talks about you look 5 yards in front of you or 5 feet in front of you, and you just keep your focus right there. And you just keep, trying to be a better version of yourself. You just try to keep, how can I win this next 5? How can I do better? How can I, just keep the blinders on, just look down and work. And after a while, you'll look up and you'll see how far you come, and you'll be like, damn, I can't believe I've done that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I'm at with my career and where I'm at in life. I just am so thankful, and I can't believe, this crazy. I made it. I'm not made it. I made it as a professional athlete
Yeah.
when a young Elliot Markuson at Ole Miss was like, I'm not going to do the league, man. I'm not good enough.
Yes.
And here we are, and I get to meet incredible people like yourself and the community around athletics, and using my story as a way to hopefully influence the next generation of walk-ons to, man, go do what you want, man. Like, put
Mm-hmm.
yourself out there. You'll be surprised what you can accomplish. So yeah, I know that was a long-winded
Oh,
answer into bobsled, but it was yeah.
no, that's great. That's beautiful. So, um, I have to ask this question. I'm pretty sure the others are wondering when they watch this. As we all know, the Olympics is coming up
Mm.
in Italy in February. What are your what are your thoughts about potentially being part of Team USA going into the Olympics?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. I think you go back to that, like, hey, it's just another day training and sleeping and eating right. And we got our email from Team USA for the it's like the initial, like, Olympic Games outreach for, in the email it says like, hey, you've been recognized as a potential Team USA athlete
Hmm.
for the 2026 Winter Olympics. And, that's not making the team. That's not whatever. It's just like to fill it out. But it's that same feeling of, when I had either my first, snaps at Ole Miss or even coming
Hmm.
on campus and doing my first fall camp. It just takes me back to all those years of like, man, this is the fruit of that labor of
Hmm.
not giving up, even through all the sucking hardships, showing up with attitude and effort because those are the only two things you can control,
Hmm.
and trying to maximize those things. And you look up and you see where you're at, and this could be with anything in life, right? You could work your ass off, and all of a sudden you look up and you're the CEO of a company, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's surreal, man. I never thought I would be in this position in my life. And, I'm an Olympic hopeful.
Hmm.
This off season, I'm training right now, and preseason's coming up with testing, and the goal is to show up, and you either got it or you don't. And, if you don't got it, then, hey, it's been an incredible experience to compete for our country at the highest level of at least, one athletic event. But to wear that USA jersey on your chest is it's it's a little special, man. I can't, I love Ole Miss football and I'm an SEC diehard,
Yeah.
but to wear Team USA has been man, it's been special.
That's a lot of it special. I mean, that's a dream. That's a dream for thousands, if not millions of people to be
Mm,
able to compete against the best to ever do it, the best doing it currently of
mhm.
this generation. So, we will of course be following the journey. And hey, Elliot Markuson, Italy 2026. So we'll definitely be following that. So my last two questions here is
Yep.
with your journey, how has being a walk-on inspired you?
Being a walk on, and I get a little chill saying this, being a walk on has made my journey. It has given me all the tools I feel like necessary to be able to tackle some of life's hardest problems. It has checked me as well. Being a walk on means you have to dispose of your ego.
Mhm.
And man, I've had some real ego checks in the past and even lately, right? But when you go through being a walk on, when you're a part of something bigger than yourself, because you're so convicted to be the conviction is so strong to be a part of it that you can deal with any of the bullshit or any of the hardships because you're like, no, I choose to be here, not because they're paying me, not because I got a scholarship, not because of, my uncle said I should go here. No, no, no. Like the things that you learn and you pick up being a walk on will carry with you the rest of your life, no matter what you're doing. If you're cutting the yard or, raising a kid, raising a family, I think it'll just go with you your whole life. And, like I said, for me, it made me into the young man I am today. And it goes back to, listening to my dad and his coaches when I was a kid, all the way through Ole Miss and playing and now transitioning to bobsled and now transitioning to what's next and the next
Mhm.
adventures in life. I think there's no greater honor to be a walk on. A lot of people wear that with a scarlet letter. I don't think so, man. I think being a walk on is more valuable than being a scholarship guy.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. The lessons I've learned personally, it's just like, how would I have learned this if I didn't go through this?
Right.
And everything important, you have to go through something first
Right.
to get to that. So that is great. And my last question is the people who considering walking on or current walk on going through that grind, going through their Julys in the South and
Yep.
or going through their, their rough moments, watching your story. What
Mm.
is your message to all of the other walk-ons?
Yeah, man. I would just say keep your head down. Look 5 yards in front of you every time, every step. Just focus on your next step, getting better, showing up every day, be 1% better every day. And when you look up, you'll be 50 yards down the field and you'll be like, look how far I came, right? Be humble. Don't let your ego get the best of you, and work hard, man. And at the end of the day, enjoy the process because the old coach that my dad used to work for, he used to always say, "Gentlemen, these are the best days of your lives. You'll never live these again. And when you're done playing college football, the only thing ain't nobody gonna remember no stats. No one's gonna remember how many touchdowns you got. What you're gonna remember is your friendships and your bonds, and those are the things that are gonna carry you through the rest of your life. And enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, work hard, man, and believe in yourself. And when you're done, man, like, you know, go do pro day, go try, put yourself out there, try out for Team USA. You know, if you're not done being an athlete, there are a lot of avenues out there nowadays to stay athletic and stay competing at the highest level.
That is great. That is great. Let me pause this real quick.